everybody, and welcome to brand new 2020 chat show. I'm Olivia, your personal branding photographer from Shoot and Share.
Hi everyone, I'm Tam and I'm the brand designer. Together, Olivia and I have created Brand You 2020 to be a virtual meeting place for small business owners, looking for expert advice, hints and tips on everything to do with brand visibility, marketing, design and brand photography.
Tam and I would like to say thank you to all our Facebook friends. Thanks for being on the page with us. And of course, if you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure you like it and make sure you subscribe so that you can get any notification of any of the new shows coming your way every week.
Our guest today is a bit of a yogi. She's a climber, a drag queen enthusiast, and a hugely creative and talented copywriter and content coach. She's currently been nominated for the New Business Southampton Star Awards, which we do hope she will win. And she's been published in the Huffington Post, and since launching her business last July, she's been interviewed by the BBC News Live as a young entrepreneur. She has hosted 2 workshops, which has been sold out, been a key speaker at events, and co-launched a new networking group called the Tide Collective. It's our huge pleasure to welcome today the creative director of Badger Creative. Amber Badger, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on the show today. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Amber, and welcome. I mean, it's been a real fascinating journey to write this interview for you because I really got an insight into your quirky little world and that of the world of a copywriter. So can we start the interview with getting to know you a little bit better? Can you tell our audience, how you got started and what kind of driven you to become a copywriter?
Yeah, of course. Well, as long as I can remember, I've always been a writer. So when I was a little kid, I was writing poems and stories and getting them published in anthologies. They were always quite bizarre, I have to admit. They normally had a bit of a dark side. So read into that as you will. During university, I really wanted to be a journalist. So I thought that that's what I was going to do. But then the more I learned about it, the more I learned about a side of journalism that I maybe didn't want to be a part of. So that moved into marketing, which moved into PR, which moved into basically every different part of the marketing spectrum. And for 7 years, I kind of moved from job to job every year. I'd always grow quite impatient. I always thought that there was something more out there. It was never anything to do with the organizations. I worked for some incredible, lovely businesses who I hold really dearly in my heart, but there was just always something there that I was like, this isn't quite right. There's something else that I want to be doing. And I think that something else was starting my business. And copywriting, why I wanted it to be copywriting is because writing, that pure sort of sense, writing in its purest sense of the word is the thing I'm passionate about. So yeah, I guess that's what led me here.
Great.
Oh, that's lovely. And last year you've launched Badger Creative, which is focusing on your copywriting, and that was last July, wasn't it?
Yes.
Were you faced with any hurdles in launching Badger Creative, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so first of all, I had no savings behind me when I decided to start the business, which is always a really good thing to do. But I came to a point in my life last year where for things that had happened in our family and personal life, I just thought now is the time to do it. I'm not going to wait any longer. Life is way too short. So I just went for it. So I would say money was a bit of a hurdle at the start. And especially I had been building up my portfolio while I'd been in normal full-time employment. And I had one client in particular that promised me quite a lot of work that would have kind of taken up most of my time. So I was really reliant on that. And then when I did take the full-time leap into self-employment, they kind of pulled the rug from under my feet and just disappeared. So that was a huge fear that I put all of my eggs in that one, in that basket. And suddenly I was just like, oh gosh, I have no money and no clients now that I've gone full time. So it was a real lesson learned. One, to make sure I always have some savings behind me, and 2, to never rely purely on one client. I guess luckily the way I overcame that was I had started building up a network before I went full time. And it meant that I did have some connections and work did start coming in, but that fear when you don't know if it definitely is going to come in or not is quite anxiety inducing. But yeah, they were kind of my main hurdles.
I think we've all got hurdles when we first start. So it's great to hear that everybody's the same when they first start their business. So, I mean, Amber, you describe your style as a no bullshit approach to writing, which I totally love. So does that mean that your ideal clients are brave brands who dare to be a little bit different? And, why is that important to you? And so what kind of led you to that style of writing?
I know, definitely would say that that's what my ideal client is. It was interesting because when I first started off, everyone, all the advice that I read and all the things that different people were saying to me was that I needed to serve just one industry, and that's what my niche should be. But I didn't want to serve just one industry. At first I thought, oh, maybe it'll be health and well-being because it's an area that I personally love. But when it came to writing, I didn't want to just limit myself. And then actually through working with Steph, who was on the show last week, and looking at the type of clients that really got me excited that I'd worked with in the past and the projects that I really loved, it was those brands that wanted to be disruptive to their industry. So that was their sole aim. Obviously if they could boost their sales and everything as a side effect of it, then absolutely fantastic. But their main thing that they wanted to do was produce content and share content and be known for that content that was just really different. And I just find that so exciting. Like, I love finding that boundary line and just seeing how far I can push it. Because I don't want my clients to sound like anyone else. I want people to know that that is their brand when they're reading their content without even having to see their logo or anything like that. Because that's a really important value of mine for my business. So it just feels natural to do that for my clients, I guess.
Yeah. And that's a great value. And to see you speak about it with such passion is really quite inspiring to see. So that's great. You also work with quite a lot of international clients, clients based in Australia, America, Italy, and of course the UK. And there's very different cultures that happen between these sort of continents and countries. Do you need to write differently for these countries? And how do you adapt to them being culturally different?
Yeah, definitely. So mainly my work with international clients has been through roles I've had in the past. So I've lived in Australia, Italy, I've worked with clients in the US. At the moment, most of my clients are actually UK based, but back then I learned so much from it. And I think that is why I'm able to adapt my writing style to different sectors, if that makes sense. You're speaking to different audiences and it's such different cultures. Like, an American culture is so different to, for example, when I was in Italy, I was writing for a second language English audience, and that was a really big adjustment for me. But it all just came down to researching what that audience was, looking at other brands in the market, speaking to that audience, me speaking directly to the audience, so actually finding out more about them and the type of content that they wanted to be reading, the type of language they were going to respond to, and then applying that to what I was writing. So it's something that's really helpful for me now, and I loved it. I just think that there's no greater joy in life than learning and expanding your mind. As woo as that sounds, I love it. So I really want to actually be pushing that more now. Like, I'd love to start widening out to a more international audience.
Right. And do you have a favourite word of all time?
Oh, I love this question. I think that people would expect me to choose a word that was my favourite because of its meaning, but actually my background, like my studying background, is linguistics. So my favourite word is actually ricochet, because I just love how it sounds. Like, it rolls off the tongue and it feels quite onomatopoeic, and that shush sound in the middle is called a sibilant sound, and I just love it. I'm such a geek.
Say it again. Say it again.
Ricochet.
That's lovely. I think we've all got favorite words, but it's lovely to hear yours. And I went on your website and I saw a sentence that I really liked. Falling back in love with your brand through a story that feels like a bestseller. And I loved it, and it really resonated with me. And I'll explain a little bit why. So when I first launched my business, Shoot and Share, I obviously created my own website. And like most people, I needed content. So I went searching on the web. I got inspired by other people's website, and I was copying and pasting and trying to rewrite it. And then it just kind of, didn't resonate with me. It just wasn't my text. It wasn't my words, and it didn't represent my brand. So after recommendation, I contacted Amber, and together we created the content for my website. And that is exactly what happened. I fell back in love with my brand, and I fell back in love with my content. And the the words and the text that Amber created were so personal to me and to my brand voice. And I'm assuming that's exactly what all your clients must feel when you deliver your work. But I'm really curious, what's the one thing that you did for a client that you didn't expect?
Well, first of all, I loved working with you, Olivia, so thank you for your kind words.
Yeah.
But I actually think that it's giving the fact that my work was making people feel confident about their business again. I never quite saw it in this way, but it seems that when I'm giving them that content about their business and showing them their business through someone else's eyes, it reminds them how flippin' amazing they actually are.
Yeah.
I think that as business owners, we can get so bogged down in like all the detail and the difficult parts, but especially at the moment with the situation we're in, it's hard, you know, well, it's easy to miss all the wonderful stuff that you are actually doing. And, you know, we're not always told, are we? Quite often we're told when we're not doing very well, but we're not always told when we're sort of smashing it. So I think getting that feedback from people that it gave them that sort of love for what they do again, and it kind of lit a bit of a fire up the bum and sort of pushed them forward to just really, really drive their business and brand forward even more than they were doing so. It's just the most amazing feeling. I mean, obviously, if, you know, it's great if my work can boost their sales and get their brand out there more, but the thing that surprised me was that fact that it just made people feel excited again and just remember why they're a business owner in the first place.
That's great, Amber, and I think the fact that you can bring that feeling across from your clients really shows off your talent, which is really lovely to touch on. But also it shows the power that words can actually have. There's another lovely quote on your website which we absolutely love, and I'm going to read it off here, and it goes, "If you feel like your current content reads like a 1950s microwave instruction manual, it's time for us to get that conversation bubbling." And I absolutely love that, because I think that resonates with so many business owners. So why is having personalized text so important to a brand? And how would any business benefit from having that style of copywriting?
So it might sound obvious, but I just think it always comes back to the fact that you want to be memorable. Every single part of a brand, you know, your photography, your design, everything is important. But for me, and maybe it's because I'm a massive word nerd, I think that words genuinely have the power to have this really profound impact on the reader. You know, I only have to think of certain lines of poetry that I adore and I just get shivers. And I think that brand copywriting has the potential to do that. And ultimately, it's all about connection. So don't write for the masses, write for your desired reader, that ideal client. And if you want to do that, you have to do it in a personal way. So, you know, I've had so many clients come to me and say that they want to work with me purely because of how I write on my website, which is obviously a bit of a sort of quirky, very personal way. And, you know, this isn't me boasting saying that. It just purely shows that it does work. Right? You know, I'm not saying that everyone has to write using words like bubbling, but, you know, sort of writing in a way that feels really comfortable with you. It comes across and it's authentic. And yeah, I just think that it's so important. And also to approach that content as if it's a story. You know, stories are how we connect. So if you can build a story into your content, that's going to really fire up people's emotions and draw them into your world to hopefully want to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're really good at it, because, I mean, we all go and look at, you know, websites every day, and it's very rare that when you read a website, you can really get a feel for the personality of that person. And that's definitely what we get from your website. We can really feel you behind and your personality. We can almost like see you. It's quite incredible how well you've written your website. And so now we understand how important it is to have individualized content for your brand. But I think having content without having any kind of strategic plan behind it is probably not going to be quite as effective. So I know there's another side of your business where you do help your clients plan their content so that they can then be autonomous with it, but with also a purpose. So what would be your key advice to our audience today for creating such a strategic content plan?
Well, definitely agree with what you're saying there. It's so important to have that strategic plan. I mean, I think back to in my past life, I used to write and deliver presentations to potential corporate partners for the charity I worked for. And I would never have gone into any of those presentations without researching the company, looking at who was going to be in the room, what their backgrounds were. I mean, I would go full on stalker on their LinkedIn to even just try and think like, right, what's their personality like? What does their LinkedIn photo tell me about their personality? How can I talk to them? And I just think, why would you approach your business content, AKA the way that you're hopefully going to turn strangers into clients, without doing the same thing? And by having that strategy and that plan in place, it helps you understand who your audience is and what the different stages of their journey are going to be before they eventually commit to you, whether that's buying a product or hiring you for a service. And you also can't stand out from the crowd. And let's face it, it's a really saturated crowd, whatever industry you're in. None of us are actually unique with the service we deliver. We're unique with the way we deliver it. So if you don't have a clear voice in your mind, and you don't have a strategy how you're going to deliver that content, the platforms you're going to use to do it, who is on each different platform, then you're just not going to cut through the noise. It's going to completely fall on deaf ears. And it also means, by having a strategy in place, it means that you never just focus on one platform. So I think one of the biggest mistakes that people can make with their content is to do that. So for example, there's a lot of businesses that entirely have all of their marketing on Instagram. And what happens when Instagram goes down, as it so often does? They're left with nothing. So it also means that you think about what the important platforms are to you. And that doesn't mean you have to be everywhere, because you absolutely don't have to be everywhere. You only should be where your audience is. And it just means that you can utilize them in a better way. And ultimately that saves you time as well. So whether that's for your blogs, your website content, newsletters, external industry articles, podcasts, videos, your social media strategy, it's just really important to have it in sort of one nice big overarching strategy. And it means that there's a purpose to everything that you're doing, which is key.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a massive time saving. I mean, we're all extremely busy, and it's so easy to just write one post on Facebook and then just to automatically copy it on LinkedIn and so on. And, we're all guilty of that because we push for time, because we don't have time to rewrite the same message with 3 different languages for our 3 different platforms. So definitely I would imagine that coming to you for help on that, to have that clear strategy, is absolutely really crucial, I think.
I think some very important points pointed out there. So very good. So to our viewers, you can find out more about the different types of services Amber offers on her website, which is www.badger-creative.com. So definitely take a look at that. Amber, unfortunately, we can't really avoid talking about the actual situation with COVID-19 and how it has affected so many small businesses in so many ways. Crisis management plays a core part of any communication strategy, and maintaining content during a crisis is extremely important. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. And it isn't easy, but it is crucial. And I would say that if it's better for your mental health at the moment to remove yourself from that noise, then absolutely do so. But if you can, then you definitely should be maintaining content during this crisis. You will need to adapt it. And I don't mean sort of those knee-jerk reactions where you just think that you suddenly have to change all of your business activity to keep things floating on. You still need to stay true to your brand voice and what your audience know you for. But the fact is, your audience is going to need something different from you at the moment. And that is going to be unique to all of us. So if you haven't already, you need to have a think about that, and you need to think about how you can provide benefit and value to your audience during this time. And you also want to think about what your core message is for your business around the crisis. So basically, this core message is what I see as your reaction statement, and you can then weave that into all of your content. So as the crisis continues, this core message is likely going to have to adapt because it's changing all the time, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it's your way of communicating and keeping your community in the loop with how you're working, how they can connect with you, and anything else that you're doing to support people during this time. So people will write these core messages in a lot of different ways, but for me, it should include an empathetic human response to what's going on. It should show the action that you're taking as a business owner. There should be some reassurance in there for your stakeholders if it's needed. An example of what's going to happen next, and as much detail as is needed and relevant. So don't bombard them with information, but be clear and honest. And well, actually being clear and honest is just the pillars of all content, but especially when it comes to this core message, I would say.
Yeah, and then so once you've got that core message drafted, then obviously, again, you need to put some kind of a plan in place. So, how would you do that? What would be the way to do that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways to approach content planning, but it's super important for similar reasons to what I mentioned when we talked about content strategies. But it could be anything from mapping out your blog posts and making sure that they're really richly written for SEO, so that can boost your Google ranking during this time, which is really helpful. It could be an entire monthly content plan showing how your different platforms are all going to link together. Or it could be a really tailored social media plan and strategy for every individual month, which you can then look back on, look at the impact and sort of adjust it going forward. And I think this is really important for a lot of reasons. It means that you can use that strategy that you've already created, hopefully, to make sure that this plan that you're creating really speaks to your audience, and every single thing that you're creating has a purpose.
Yeah.
It also ensures that you can make sure any selling that you are doing is in a subtle way, which is something I think is really, really important. So rather than sort of that cold, hard sell, which people especially don't want to receive at the moment, you can still sell, but you do it in a more sensitive way, I suppose. And you can build it into sort of value-adding content and help your audience to build on that know, like, and trust sort of system that we've got. A content plan also holds the person accountable. It can be, I don't know about you guys, but content production can, well, not for me, but content production can really fall down quite a lot on your to-do list. Whereas if you've got a plan in place, you're like, well, I've got no excuse. I know what I'm supposed to be doing on these different days, so I'm just going to do it. And it also gives us something to look back on. We've got a nice, like a physical plan that we can look at, and we can see what worked, what didn't work, so that we're constantly trying to improve rather than just doing the same thing constantly because it's easier, because you need to get something back from it. So yeah, I think that it's all of this. I think that planning is always important, but I think it's especially important and relevant at the moment, because creating fresh, well-crafted content is key to stay in your audience's mind and keep you high on Google, so that when we're on the other side of this, you're the person that people want to go to for that service or product.
Yeah.
So during this time of crisis, is it still possible to build positive stories into the PR and into our content? Is it still possible to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that it's so important that people don't feel guilty for doing that. I think if you're doing something that's positive and good for your community and for your people, don't shy away from talking about it and trying to get that out there in the press. Like, we should definitely be shouting about it. I think, we need some good news. I mean, I'm so fed up of all the negativity and all the dread. I just want to see good, nice things. And I think I'm definitely not the only person that feels like that. Positive press is always going to be good for reaching new people and being remembered for the right reasons. I think that during this particular situation, there's two types of people that are going to be remembered on the other side of it when it comes to business. So there are those that are dropping their brand values and turning to negativity and blame during the crisis. And then there are those that are trying to bring light to their community and to continue doing what they can to support themselves and others. And a lot of that is through the type of content that they're putting out there. And the first one I mentioned probably isn't going to be remembered for the right reasons. So yeah, I definitely think it's key to be getting as many positive stories out there as possible at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we all need to have and to listen to positive stories. So, I mean, for anybody who's interested and who needs a bit of help with a crisis content, Amber is offering some free sessions at the moment where she can give you some advice. So make sure you check out her website to get a bit more information. And well, Amber, you know, it's been since the creation of your business, it's been a full-on year. So, what's your next project? What have you got planned for the next year coming up?
Yeah, it has been full on. It's been super full on, hasn't it? Well, I've actually got a new website launch that's coming at the end of this month, hopefully. So that's very exciting. Obviously, you know, hopefully I might get some positive news in the awards once lockdown is over. And then just continuing to just push the business and try and, like I mentioned actually earlier on, try and maybe get to a bit of an international audience. And I'm also toying with the idea of writing a business book. So yeah, we'll see about that one. But, yeah.
I mean, you also told me that you write stories for yourself.
Yes, you know, I do. Yeah. So
as well.
Yeah. So well, yeah, that's my way of it's a bit of a relaxation technique actually. I've always loved fiction writing, but especially when I started the business, I just completely put it to the side. So now having this extra time and space, I've started doing it again, and I'm hoping to get a collection together within the next sort of few months. And yeah, I mean, if I could get it published, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that would be very cool. That's a really lovely technique to use actually for relaxation. I think that's quite a great way to kind of get things out there and relax and change of scenery. So I think that's great. So brilliant. So thank you, Amber, for joining us. We have loved speaking to you and chatting about your future projects. We wish you the best of luck for your nomination for the awards. We will be keeping our eyes open for that. And here at Brand You 2020, we love hearing successful business stories. Those stories driven by passion and talent is what we love. And we certainly understand how the power of words can shape your brand voice and attract your ideal clients. Again, Amber, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I absolutely loved chatting to you both. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Amber. So please join us next week again, 11:30, as usual, where we'll be welcoming Chris and Jude from Ready Steady Websites. So yes, make sure you join us or watch it on replay.
Brilliant. Thanks for watching, and don't forget, be visible. Bye for now.
Bye.